2 weeks ago, we sent out a survey to get your feedback on what you were thinking as far as getting back together at some point in the future. Thank you for responding. It helps us to know where our minds and hearts are as a church as far as getting back together is concerned. Just want to take a minute and share these results with you and walk through these together. First, you're going to see a pie chart. The question that we asked was, if the CDC and the local government guidelines regarding social distancing were loosened, and you were told it's safe for non-symptomatic people to gather in groups of 25 people or less, how likely would you be to meet with a small group in someone's home? This was the question we asked just to gauge at some point in the future it may make sense to get together as small groups before we do so as a large church. This is what we heard from you. There's 12.7% that said definitely will gather, 33.8 said probably will not, and then 53.5 said probably will gather. One important thing to note, especially among those who say they would gather, is people are still looking for numbers to decrease in our area. They're still more comfortable perhaps getting together outside at a park where they can maintain adequate social distancing. And so as we think about this question, it's really focused on getting together in a small group in an environment with a small number of people. It's also acknowledging that we're going to listen to the CDC. We're going to listen to our local government officials as far as what they recommend. We're going to listen to the medical community, and we're going to just think about what makes sense for us as a church before we decide to get back together. Next, we asked, what does returning to a large church gathering look like to you? What measures would you want to have in place? There are several themes emerged from this question. I just want to walk with you through some of them. The vast majority of you said social distancing would need to be in place. We need to have masks available, make sure everyone's wearing one, make sure we are over vigilant as far as keeping our building clean. Communion is going to have to be a different experience than we're used to. Definitely something where we take those individual servings, where the wafers have no taste, but at least we're taking communion together. Plenty of hand sanitizer available. Where we enter and exit, maybe propping those open or making sure those are extra clean. Temperature checks for those who are coming in the building is perhaps a measure we can put in place. And then there are those who, if we're still wearing masks, don't see the point in coming back together. And then those that will just wait until there's some kind of medical solution available for people. And then you see a list of overall themes from the responses we received. The main encouragement from you was, this is too early right now, there's no urgency, which brought me a sense of peace because that's where we are as a staff and a leadership team. We really don't want to rush this. We want to be responsible. I want to be wise and compassionate as far as when we get back together. Cleanliness was a major factor in coming back together. There was encouragement for us to rely upon medical guidance and not political guidance. Outdoor events will perhaps be a better place to gather first. There was also encouragement that what we are doing is working, helping us stay connected, and we're open to more ideas. We're doing all we can to make sure that we're connecting with each other, encouraging each other as we go through this difficult time together. We have many in our church with health issues or family members with health issues, and so that's a factor in getting back together. There's concern over the children's ability to social distance from each other. We know how kids are. We want them to still be kids when they show up, and so that factors into what we do. And there's many people who said as long as all these measures are in place, there really is no rush to get back together. Part of getting back together is shaking hands, hugging each other, having face-to-face conversations. And singing is something we know now where when we sing, it extends the reach of the virus. And so we want to, when we get back together, be able to sing. And so as we get ready for that day, there's certain things that we're going to have in place. There's a checklist of sorts we want to share with you. And this isn't exhaustive. There are things we'll do that aren't on this list, but these are some of the things that we're working on as we look forward to getting back together again. First of all, we're going to pay attention to the numbers. When the numbers are low enough and the risk factor is low enough, that will help us know when we can get back together again. We're going to make sure we have supplies on hand as far as face masks and hand sanitizer. We're going to pay attention to adjustments we can make to our building, automatic soap dispensers, automatic hand sanitizer dispensers. And we'll have some sort of help provided as far as markers in pews or sitting areas so that we can maintain adequate distance from each other, at least initially when we first get back together. We will also pay attention to the guidelines and recommendations coming from Dallas County. Clay Jenkins has done a good job of keeping us informed, and there's a chart that's been created for us to know where we are as far as threat level. And so right now, even as things open back up, there is still discouragement as far as large gatherings go. We want you to know that when we do get back together, we're going to get back together in stages. It might be small groups first, or it might be we come back to the large group gathering first, but just have small numbers of people come. And so it'll be a while, many months perhaps, before we're back together as a large church all together in one place like we used to be. Let me just pause here to talk a little bit about the spiritual side of things. We are not afraid. We trust God. We trust in God's ability to heal, to protect, to provide. We've been praying Psalm 91 as a church, and that just is a prayer for us to remember God's power in protecting us from this pandemic. But there's a verse in that psalm, verses 11 and 12, that show up in the Gospels. These are verses that talk about God protecting us, watching over us, having his angels watch over us, so much so that we don't even stumble upon a rock or hurt our foot on a rock. This is the verse that Satan himself quotes when he tempts Jesus in the wilderness, in both the Gospel of Matthew and the Gospel of Luke. And Jesus simply responds, we're not supposed to put God to the test. And so we think right now it would be a matter of us putting God to the test if we rushed back into getting together too quickly. So we're listening to Jesus as far as not putting God to the test. We trust in God, but we're not prideful about that trust. We also think it's important to be wise, to be compassionate, to consider how we can take care of our neighbors, take care of each other. The curve has been flattened substantially by keeping distance from each other and staying at home. And we are Care Church. It's in our name. We are people who are doing our best to care for each other and care for our neighbors. So there's no need for us to hurry or rush, but we do look forward to being together again. And every few weeks, we're going to evaluate where we are. So right now, we're committed to worshiping online through June 14th. And as that date gets closer, we're going to reevaluate. We might extend that even further, but we're just going to make decisions month to month because information changes and data comes in all the time that is helping us learn more about this pandemic. So again, we're going to be worshiping online through June 14th and maybe beyond. We'll let you know before that date comes how much we're going to extend that again. And so we do know that we're going to get back together in stages at some point in the future, but only when that risk is low. And this is where we need each other's help to manage expectations. When we get back together, it's still not going to be perfect. There's going to be some level of risk because of the nature of this pandemic, the nature of life, really. And so when we get back together, we're going to do our part to make sure this is a safe, clean environment for us to gather and worship God again. But even when we get back together, for a long time, we're going to be a church that's both gathered and scattered. There will be some out of necessity who won't be able to gather with us again for many, many months. I know we're all looking forward to that date and time where we can get back together again. Between now and then, let's keep praying. Let's pray for God to guide us, for God to watch over us, to watch over our world as we endure and experience this pandemic. And through it all, let's pray for God to use us to be a blessing to our world. Take care.